So I've been thinking about this final episode of this arc all day long, because if you think about it, even though in a way I had a lot of issues with last week's episode, and some of the things of this episode I'm a little bit disappointed with, if you do think about it, this was such a difference to a conclusion of any Dragon Ball Z arc we got. I mean, think about this, okay? Just think about this, okay? The way the villain was taken down was not thanks to Goku, Vegeta, or Trunks. Yes, they helped, but if you think about everything, though, like the grand scheme of things, they didn't take him down. They actually lost. They lost the fight against Zamasu. And it was thanks to Zeno that was able to take down Zamasu in the first place, because he's the king of all. He can wipe out anything he wants. So if you really think about the outcome of this fight, it's a rather dark ending. It's a very dark ending, but also a different type of ending. Now, I personally felt like the overall Zeno stuff could have been handled a little bit differently, which I'll get into, but at the moment, though, I have to say that I do like how this was concluded, in a way, because it was different from what we would normally get from a Dragon Ball arc. Normally, Goku would come in, if it wasn't like Trunks, for instance, doing it or whatever, or Gohan, it would be Goku saving the day, Spirit Bomb and Kamehameha, whatever. He would defeat the final villain of, the arc. But that didn't happen. Yes, they worked together. Yes, they kind of destroyed the physical body of Zamasu and forced him to go into, like, a spirit form that fused with the universe. But if you think about it, though, they still lost, because they couldn't do shit about it. They were pretty much GG, which led it to where Zeno had to be called in, and he's what saved the day. So yeah, that's dark, too. I mean, the world got destroyed. Zeno came in and just literally did the tactical nuke. He nuked the entire world. It's gone. The universe was completely eradicated. So, it's dark because all those, people died. Everybody died that was in that universe. They're dead as fuck. They're gone. Everyone was gone in that universe after what Zeno did. So, damn. That was an unexpected dark conclusion. I mean, here's the thing. I expected something like that to kind of happen. Either two things. Either Zeno was going to come in and he was going to reset the entirety of the timeline. Like, something was going to be corrected and everything would be fine and Trunks would be able to continue on his timeline. Or you're going to have it to where the entirety of the timeline was going to get destroyed and then Trunks was going to live in our present timeline, our normal timeline. I thought something like that might happen, but apparently it didn't. And I felt like the overall execution of it could have been handled a little bit differently, especially with how Zeno was, acting. I mean, I felt like there could have been a little bit more to Zeno, because the way he was interacting with Goku when he appeared here, he didn't know really what was going on at all. It seemed like he was unaware of what was really happening in this universe, which overall makes me very disappointed, because you would think the King of All would actually know everything. He would know what is going on. He would know about what's going on in this universe, who's this person causing this, what's happened to his gods, and all this type of stuff. You would think that Zeno would know this, but apparently from what we got from his dialogue, it didn't seem like he really knew anything what was going on. He didn't know Goku, so he was kind of unaware of what was happening in the other timelines, which I can kind of be fine with that. I can be fine with that, but I felt like the execution of him knowing certain things, what's going on in the universe, could have been handled way better. It could have been way better, but it was honestly lost potential. It was definitely lost potential the way Zeno was brought in like that, and then he just didn't know what was going on, and then he just nuked it, and then Goku took him over to meet the Zeno in his present timeline. It's like, here's a friend I promised you to meet, and I just felt like it was kind of a cop-out. I really did. I felt like the way this was done, it was kind of a cop-out for Zeno wanting to, meet a new friend and all that, because Goku promised him, but also how Zeno reacted to the world, kind of being fucked up thanks to Zamasu, and how, humanity has constantly been changing things. I thought Zamasu would have had a different interaction or reaction to it, but he didn't, so yeah, I mean, I guess I can't really complain anymore, because, there's nothing I can really do about it if I do. I just wish it was handled differently, because it could have been so much better. Now, obviously, this episode is nowhere near, atrocious as, some of the things in last week's episode. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Spirit Bomb sword. I mean, I like it. I like the move. I'm just not a fan of how it was done. Like, the execution of it, to also the stuff with Vegito and the earrings. That's some of the stuff I really wasn't a big fan of. But, I mean, I feel like this episode was a lot better than the previous one, but just the overall conclusion of it, I felt can be different. It was still dark, though. It was still a very dark conclusion, but I felt like it could have been tiny bit better. So, getting off of that, though, let's talk about what happened. Like, you know, what's Trunks' path now? I mean, if you think about everything, okay, Zamasu, he fused with the universe. He was literally manipulating the universe, and with his control, actually taking control of the fabric of the universe, he was actually managing to go back in the past and mess with the, you know, the present timeline, you know, universe and the rules and stuff, and mess with it, which may have made Zeno come to the world and actually have destroyed that universe as well, which would not have been good at all. So if you really think about all of this, though, Zamasu was pretty damn powerful to be able to fuse with that world. Now, we don't really know how exactly he did it, but I want to assume it's something like this, okay? Even though he was a fused being, we do know half his body was immortal. He still had that immortality. You just don't get rid of immortality. And even though his body was eradicated completely, you just saw it disintegrate, his spirit still has to linger on somehow. So, I'm assuming Zamasu, when he became a spirit or whatever, probably he took control of the universe or whatever, and he fused with it or something. We don't know exactly how he did it. Hopefully one day Dragon Ball Super decides to explain this. But he fused with the universe, and he started manipulating and controlling it. He was pretty much the entirety of the universe. He was able to be the clouds, be the weather, be everything in the universe. He was controlling it, which that was a deadly, deadly power for him to have. So, if something like that can happen, I wonder if something like this might happen later on down the road. Maybe a future villain might have something like this, like a powerful villain that might be able to be a part of the universe and actually do this. I hope, you know, Goku and Vegeta encounter something like this. But one of the big things after this fight that is brought up is that Goku and Vegeta are relying too much on gods. And if you think about it, it's true. It's very true that Goku and Vegeta have, or all of humanity, they've been relying on the gods, like Beerus and Whis, too much. I mean, they've been using their powers, their abilities, their strengths, just knowing their connections with them to be able to get things done. And that's the truth. I mean, you cannot deny that. I mean, look at how, you know, Frieza blowing up the planet and how, you know, time was kind of reset back a couple minutes and how Earth was completely fine. It was thanks to the gods interfering of how that was even able to be fine in the first place. So gods have interfered for quite a while now. And the way it was stated in this episode that you need to stop depending so much on gods using them, you need to settle your own problems, I feel like this is going to be the next big arc, like one of the big arcs. Maybe not next arc, actually, but maybe one of the final arcs of Dragon Ball Super might focus on this. It might be build up for that, because think about, you know, how humanity has always been, or how, you know, our cast of characters have been. They always have relied on the Dragon Balls to be able to overcome many different problems, people that have died, and now it feels like the gods are the new Dragon Balls. You know how the Dragon Balls are always saving people? Now it feels like the gods are those Dragon Balls now, you know, saving the day, being able to use their powers and stuff, and they're relying too much on that because it's a type of force that really shouldn't intervene amongst the living, intervene with humanity, people that are regular mortals. That shouldn't happen normally. And so, I feel like this is going to lead into an arc. Maybe not having to do with Beerus, but maybe another god down the road in another universe or something. Something like this might happen. Now, one thing I need to talk about is definitely how future Trunks had his connection with Gohan with this episode. And it was a very heart-touching moment because, as I said, the conclusion of this arc was dark. Because the entire world, Trunks' world, blew up. It's gone. The universe is gone. Trunks' future timeline, GG. And it's dark because everybody is dead. And that means everything that Trunks has fought for throughout this entire arc, to also in the past with the Android Saga, it's gone, and it's not coming back. No Dragon Balls are probably going to save that. I mean, if Zeno wants it gone, it's gone. So, the world is dead, and you're not getting it back. And Trunks can't get that back. And this is like once again another permanent loss for Trunks, and it kind of makes me feel so bad for him as a character because he loses so much. I mean, he's lost so much throughout his journey, and he's one of the characters throughout the series of Dragon Ball that continuously has a very tragic, you know, path ahead of him. He loses people left and right. I mean, he lost his own mother in that timeline. Yes, you know, the Bulma in our present timeline is alive, but I mean, he lost his mother in that timeline, and he also lost everything else too. I mean, he lost everything. So it's sad when you really take a moment to think about it, that Trunks, everything he fought for was gone like that. And you remember one of the big things about, you know, Trunks that drove him as a character was future Gohan, and at the end of the episode, we see Trunks looking at future Gohan. He looks at our present day Gohan, and he doesn't see our present day Gohan that's like a scholar, someone that's going to school or anything like that, and is very smart. he's looking at his Gohan, his adult Gohan from the future. And it was a very heart-touching scene because it's kind of like Trunks was very conflicted in thoughts. For one, you know Trunks, he feels like he probably failed Gohan. His entire world that, he tried to stand up and fight for was lost just like that. But on top of that, though, what Gohan fought for was all lost thanks to what happened in this episode. But then on top of that, though, it was like Gohan was giving his final farewells to him. It's like, hey, don't worry, just go to your next path and continue on living. Carry what you have with you. And I mean, it was a really emotional moment, and it almost brought actually a tear to my eye because one of my favorite characters is definitely future Gohan and also Bardock, and just seeing that moment between Trunks and future Gohan, even though it was just our present-day Gohan, it was such a good moment. And so I really need to say, well done scene. I really wish they would have emphasized more on Trunks' connection with future Gohan throughout this arc, but I guess some things have, had wasted potential, but I mean, it overall was, I guess, kind of a satisfying conclusion to the arc, but it could have been a little bit better. Now, what's next, I would say, that's gonna happen? Personally, I think we're probably gonna have a couple of, episodic type episodes. I mean, judging by the preview for next week's episode, it looks like we're gonna have episodic episodies, kind of how it normally is for what we've seen from Dragon Ball Super. You have a big arc, and then you have, like, maybe 5 or so episodes of, like, fillers, episodic episodes, and then it sets up for the main plot after that. That's what I think is probably gonna happen. And so we're probably not gonna have, like, any major plot going on for maybe a couple weeks, maybe up to a month or two. So, yeah. I mean, how was everybody's thoughts on Zamasu? I mean, how'd you feel about him as a character? How'd you feel about him and his defeat? How'd you feel about, everything that's happened in these past 2 episodes? I mean, please, let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.